Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into some really interesting stuff from Beyond the Code with Pratik.
Yeah, it's a great newsletter for keeping tabs on what's happening in AI, cloud, the whole engineering space.
Absolutely. And our job, as always, is to cut through the noise and pull out the key insights for you.
Get you straight to what matters. And this time, we've got, well, three pretty big things.
Okay, what are we looking at?
AI pricing changes, a look at developer communities, specifically Stack Overflow, and then something pretty thought-provoking about how LLMs actually, well, think. Or don't.
Okay, let's dive in. First up, that AI pricing news. OpenAI's O3 model.
Yeah, big news here. Prices dropped. Like a lot, 80%.
80%. Wow. What are the specifics?
It's now down to $2 for $1 million input tokens and $8 per $1 million output tokens.
Okay, those numbers sound tiny per token, but why is this such a big deal?
Well, the source really nails this. It makes these more complex, multi-step AI workflows suddenly way more affordable. Think like agent systems.
So instead of one giant prompt, you have multiple AIs working together. Like one plans, one researches, one writes.
Exactly. Things like planning agents, summarization chains, RIG tasks, generating follow-ups. These things that were maybe too expensive to run regularly, now they're practical. Mainstream even.
The source mentioned they can talk, collaborate, iterate. That's a different way of building AI features.
Totally. It lowers the barrier. You don't have to cram everything into one model's context window.
And they had an example cost, right?
Yeah, pretty standard 3-step agent workflow. Comes out to only about 15 cents per run.
15 cents, that's incredibly cheap for that kind of process.
It is. Opens up a ton of possibilities for developers putting stuff into production. But, and this is important.
Oh, there's always a but.
Right. The source cautions, 15 cents is cheap per run, but scale it up.
Like thousands of users.
Exactly. 10,000 users running that daily, suddenly you're at $1,500 a day.
Okay, so it's affordable to start, but you still need smart design. Don't just add agents because you can.
Precisely. Use them where they add real value because those costs will add up if you're not careful.
Makes sense. Okay, let's shift gears. Topic 2, Stack Overflow. A lot of us have kind of felt this decline.
Yeah, that feeling is widespread, and the newsletter confirms it. There are graphs showing the drop-off, but it argues it's not just about ChatGPT or other AIs taking over Q&A.
What else is going on then?
It points to a cultural shift from, people actively sharing knowledge, asking tough questions, debating answers, posting workarounds, to just consuming, getting a quick answer from an AI and moving on.
And what gets lost there?
A lot. Stack Overflow wasn't just a help desk. It was this knowledge factory, as the source puts it, full of context, debate, dead ends, the why behind solutions.
Stuff that's searchable, communal.
Yeah.
And ironically, the very stuff that trained the AI is now replacing it.
Exactly. That's the critical point. Asking an AI is faster, sure, but if we stop generating that raw material, the human insight, the context, the struggle, we're potentially undermining future AI development and our own collective understanding.
It's like cutting off the roots, as the source says. So what's the call to action? Build something new.
Yeah, or support spaces that still encourage that deep contribution. Thinking together out loud, valuing good questions, not just quick answers. We need to protect that.
A really important point. Okay, third topic. This one sounds intriguing. Apple research challenging how LLMs think.
Right, a paper called The Illusion of Thinking. It's pretty fascinating. They tested models like GPT on classic logic puzzles, Tower of Hanoi, river crossing puzzles, things like that.
Yeah. How do they test them differently?
They didn't just look at the final answer. They increased the complexity of the puzzles, more steps needed, but kept the core logic the same. And crucially, they measured the reasoning steps the model seemed to take.
And what happened? Did they reason better on harder problems?
The opposite, actually, which was surprising. As puzzles got harder, the models used fewer reasoning steps.
Fewer? That doesn't make sense if it's reasoning.
Exactly. And their accuracy just plummeted. They even failed when explicitly given the correct algorithm to solve the puzzle.
Wow. So what's the conclusion?
The paper argues they weren't really reasoning step by step. They were primarily pattern matching, finding similar examples in their vast training data.
So a correct answer, especially on simpler stuff, might just look like reasoning, but it's more like sophisticated mimicry.
That seems to be the implication. It suggests that just getting a correct output doesn't mean the model understood the task in a human sense.
What does this mean for people working with LLMs then?
Well, the source pulls out a few key things. First, prompting techniques like chain of thought, maybe not enough on their own. Second, Just making models bigger isn't necessarily the answer to true reasoning.
So what is needed?
The research points towards hybrid systems maybe combining LLM's language skills with more traditional symbolic logic systems, and importantly, developing better benchmarks that actually test how a model arrives at an answer, not just if the answer is right.
We need to look under the hood more, not just at the final product.
Precisely. Be more critical about what understanding means for these models.
Okay, let's wrap this deep dive up. We touched on three big themes from Beyond the Code with Pratik.
Yeah, first, that AI price drop making multi-agent workflows much more accessible, but scale costs are still a real factor.
Right. Then the worrying decline of community knowledge sharing, like on Stack Overflow, and the risk of losing that vital raw material for learning both human and machine.
And finally, this Apple research suggesting current LLMs might be showing an illusion of thinking, relying more on pattern matching than true reasoning.
Key takeaways seem to be: use cheaper AI power wisely, actively protect and contribute to collective knowledge spaces, and be realistic about LLM limitations, push for better methods.
Absolutely. Understand the tools, but also their current boundaries.
So here's maybe a final thought for you to chew on. As these powerful AI tools get cheaper and woven deeper into everything we do, how do we make sure we don't accidentally lose the very human things like collaboration, debate, figuring things out the hard way that actually fueled all this progress, and even train the AIs in the first place? Where's that balance?
That's the big question going forward, isn't it? Something definitely worth thinking about.
Indeed. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.